Borderlands may have a terrible Rotten Tomatoes score of 9%, but being bad is far from Borderlands' biggest problem. Based on the video game series of the same name, Borderlands brings audiences to the distant world of Pandora and follows the adventures of Lilith. A skilled bounty hunter hired to find the daughter of the maniacal business magnate, Lilith spends the film developing bonds with her targets and discovering her own destiny. The film pulls from a lot of different entries in the series to attempt its own original story, tying together different concepts and characters for a new narrative. Although Borderlands took years to actually make, the end result clearly isn't what Lionsgate, Gearbox, or Take-Two Interactive was hoping for. At the time of this writing, the film sits at 9% on Rotten Tomatoes, an abysmal score that makes it one of the worst recent adaptations of a video game. However, what went wrong with Borderlands is far worse than the movie just being bad. There are some aspects of the film that even, in isolation, are actually alright. The big underlying flaw that impacts the film's characters, action, and story makes Borderlands the one thing worse than bad. Borderlands is boring, and that's worse than being bad. A weird but bad Borderlands would have been better than a boring and forgettable film. Cate Blanchett as Lilith looking smug with Jamie Lee Curtis as Tannis and Kevin Hart as Roland both looking serious in Borderlands custom image by Kate Bove. Borderlands is a dull film, which is the worst sin the action-adventure adaptation could have made. Despite this, Borderlands has some elements that work all right, like the physical production design and general look of Pandora. Most of the cast are doing their best to bring unique touches to their characters, with Jamie Lee Curtis and Ariana Greenblatt doing the best job of it. However, none of them can stop the movie from just being boring. High-octane action set pieces, intense battles, and global exploration drove the Borderlands games. Despite the source material, the film doesn't replicate it well at all. The Borderlands movie is much more stop and go. Action scenes are broken up with extended periods of uninspired dialogue and bland explanations. Traveling across Pandora could be exciting in the games because they offered players a chance to explore the massive scope. Transitions in Borderlands are quick and dull, relocating characters from one re-established set to another without any sense of scale or adventure. It strips Borderlands of the larger-than-life elements that define the games, and renders the whole thing a dull experience instead. The characters, action, and story are ultimately just boring, and not even entertainingly bad or weird. Borderlands explains its biggest moments instead of showing them. The character growth of Borderlands doesn't actually really happen in the story. Dr. Tannis and Lilith looking at a holographic map of the universe in Borderlands, 2024, image via Lionsgate. A film like Borderlands is ideally a visual feast of gonzo characters and concepts, grounded by a cast of eclectic and entertaining characters. However, none of the film really showcases that potential. Elements like Lilith's history and powers are explained in scenes between her and Tannis or through recordings of her mother. The idea is these moments can set up Lilith's growth and realization of her potential, making the discovery of her full powers all the more impactful. However, all of that emotional impact is blunted when audiences were told about the effects instead of seeing the character actually experience it. The character relationships are the same way. Lilith and Tina are the film's big emotional bond, developing from two misanthropes opposed to one another to finding a bond characterized as a sisterly connection. However, there's little actual development between the two. They have a few scenes together where they drop exposition or snark, and then seemingly strengthen their bond. None of the emotional heavy lifting in the film is ever completed in the story, it's mostly just stated. Compare this to Guardians of the Galaxy, where the character dynamics were played with, tested, and at the heart of the story.